Actually, not very much known about the person. But in India, it's like that. The person behind the work is not that important. Always like that. They kept the tradition like that. And we don't know who has actually written the scriptures. Most of the great work in the Vedic period is without the name of the author who wrote it. We have the name Vyasa, who is considered as the compiler of Vedas. Veda means knowledge. Veda is knowledge and is compiled by somebody, and he is called the compiler of Vedas. And he is called Vyas. Vyas means compiler. So it may be one person, it may be many people. So that was how it was. The name, they don't put their name into their work. Then later their students, they became masters and they talk about their master. Through them we understand that this was a man who made this book. So the person behind the work is insignificant and they have no feeling also to project their name. They are just like mediums, portray the science, which revealed to them in their consciousness. This is the idea. So actually not much is known about Patanjali or his time of living. But there are speculations, there are differences of opinion also about the lifetime of Patanjali. And there are researchers who were really trying to find the time of Patanjali. Probably he might have lived between 2400 and 2600. So 400 years before Jesus, between 600 years before Jesus. Well, no clear-cut evidence of the lifetime of Patanjali. But the place where he lived, everybody knows. Where he worked is very well known. He lived in the south of India in a place called Chidambara. Chidambara, the sky of consciousness. Chidambara, if you translate, the meaning is the sky of consciousness. He lived there. There is a place in Tamil Nadu in south of India. And there is a great temple there. The temple is well known. Also because of the name of Patanjali. There was another master who made exactly yoga philosophy. At the same time, Patanjali has done his Yoga Sutra. And his name was Tirumular. And he has done a book, Tirumandira. Patanjali did Yoga Sutra in Sanskrit. Tirumular did yoga. The name of the book was Tirumandira. Patanjali codified in short essence. He extracted the essence only, 196 small passages, aphorisms, small lines. Whereas Tirumular, his book contained 3000 verses. It is a big book. Both of them were talking the same philosophy. So it is researched and understood that they have had a common master. The teachings were the same. One elaborately discussing the ideas and principles of yoga, and the other is discussing the principles in its core. We only have written 2 lines each, 196 verses. The other one 3000. Both lived in the same place. In the temple, they have assigned the oldest part of the Sanctum Sanctorum is really assigned to these 2 saints. Tirumoolar and Patanjali. Inside the temple, it's a very special place. Last time when I was there in this temple, I felt like just a simplicity, as if I just want to feel like meditating. And I sat there. This was the place where Patanjali and Tirumoolar stayed. They had their teachings there. So I sat there and I closed my eyes and I meditated. Then after some time, it was a fantastic experience. After some time, the bugle, the Indian bugle, and the band, the drums, starts to come in there, as if a procession is coming. I was sitting with closed eyes and I start to hear the sound, which is from long distance. A procession is coming. I was coming and coming and coming and coming closer and closer and closer, and finally it was there, just in front of me. It was the procession of the temple. And for me, it was just Patanjali and Tirumoolar is coming with all the paraphernalia of all the grand masters. That was the feeling I got. It was so amazing feeling. It's all my mind's projection. But it was so great a feeling. It was every day evening at maybe between 6 and 7, the temple deity will be taken out from the sanctum sanctorum, and the priest, together with all the population, people who are present there at that time, they come out with band and drums and bugles and all. They move around to see the sub-deities who are kept on the outer ring of the temple, inside the temple. So I got a fantastic feeling, because I know that this was this procession, but the feeling was unexpected, that Patanjali was coming, Tirumoolar was coming, just with everything, with the band, bugle, and a big procession. And that was the feeling. And so people used to feel him, even today, by projecting their own mind. Actually, what happened to me was my mind projected this because I have a great feeling. So that projected outside, and it felt the appearance and the presence of the great masters. It's like that. So anyway, according to Patanjali, when we discuss his lifetime, no one is very clear about it. It might be between 2400 and 2600 years. Because Patanjali's philosophy came just after Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya was a prevalent philosophy at the time of Buddha. Buddha lived in 2400 years before. And Buddha was also following a Sankhya master. He was a Sankhya philosopher, student at the beginning. For a long time he was following that. Then he had found his own way of realization. So it might be near 2400, somewhere there. Because this yoga philosophy has its roots in Sankhya. Sankhya was made by a master called Kapila, Maharishi Kapila, one of the greatest masters who ever lived in India, because he has really made the basic format of Genesis, creation, I should say. And that was adopted by yoga. That was adopted by all the subsequent philosophies. And so it might be after Sankhya and maybe just before Buddha. That is what is speculated. Then I have visited his Samadhi place. Samadhi means his place where he left his body. It is in Rameshwaram, which is also in Tamil Nadu. which is the southern tip of India, on the east side, on the southern tip of India, on the eastern side, which Sri Lanka is very close from there. Rameshwaram, it's an island. And he left his body in this place, where there came a great temple later. This temple also dates back before Christ. Very one of the ancient temples. And this temple had the longest corridor in the world. Corridors after corridors, you have to move around with architecture and beautiful things. And there, on the side of the Sanctum Sanctorum, there is a temple specially devoted for Patanjali and another master. And so that is his Samadhi place, means the place where he left his body. So both these places are in Tamil Nadu. So he might be living in Tamil Nadu. Then there was a legend. There are so many legends about great masters. When you don't know exactly, then the subsequent masters, they really create great attributes on the name of great masters. This is very common. The Indian mind is like that. They create stories and they attribute it. This story may have a lot of meanings also, a significance. So there was a story, legend, which says Patanjali was the incarnation of the great serpent Ananda. There was a great serpent in mythology having 1,000 hood, means 1,000 mouth. And the serpents have their tongues split up, so 2,000 tongues. So everything at that time, masters, they speak. The unexplainable things, they could speak to their students. So he had this great capacity to communicate things which otherwise is very difficult to communicate. And so the later masters, they believed that he was the incarnation of the serpent Ananda in the mythology, having 1,000 heads and 1,000 mouths and 2,000 split tongues. So that means it's possible to speak everything. This is the biggest being with so many heads. Patanjali was like that. He could speak out the most essential secrets, which otherwise no one could speak of. So he was born for that. That's why Patanjali was believed as the incarnation of the serpent Ananda, who is like a cart for the God of existence. We have the trinities in the Indian tradition: Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara. Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is the sustainer, and Shiva is the destroyer. Coming into being, existing and withdrawing, which is the nature of manifestation. The God of existence, which is Vishnu, who is staying on the ocean of milk. Some pure milk means the most pure thing. So he lives on purity. That's why it is believed that he is lying on the ocean of milk, absolute purity. It signifies that existence survives on purity. See, there is meaning behind all these things, how they cooked up stories. So in the ocean of milk in purity, there is a serpent which is really coiling his body and is making the bed for the Lord of existence to sleep on. So he is staying on the serpent. And with the hood, he is really making the roof. So he is well protected and he is staying there. One day when Patanjali was lying with the God of existence on him, this serpent Ananda, he felt the heaviness of the body. His heaviness of the body was increasing. That finally it came to a point that he will sink and he will die. But he was keeping the God of existence. If he sink down, then the condition of the God of existence will be in trouble. So he could not afford to really put the God of existence into the ocean and sink and strangle it or maybe suffocate to death or drown to death. So he was resisting and trying to manage the heaviness, but it was so unbearable. Finally, he could manage. And then the weight slowly decreased as it increased. And finally it relieved. So he had a doubt. How comes this strange phenomena which he had never experienced before? So he asked the God of existence, what happened? I could not figure out what happened. Because my weight was increased. Your weight became so heavy and heavier and heavier that I was about to die. And what was that strange phenomena? Could you please explain? So God of existence explained to him, see, I was really witnessing the cosmic dance of Lord Shiva. And it was so powerful atomic movement, dance, that the whole energy came into my body. And that was your experience, that it really came to you because you had to hold all this. So that was what happened. So he got very curious, Anandan got very curious, and he asked God of existence, is there a chance for me to really see this? I'm so fascinated by this and learn this dance. So God of existence said, yes, there is a possibility. In your next life, you will learn this. You will see this cosmic dance and you will learn. I was satisfied. That was part of the story. Then the other part of the story, there was a woman, a very Puritan woman, a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. She was living there, having the feeling to have a beautiful baby for her. But somehow it never happened. She didn't get a child and she became so old. And one day when she was there in some waters, the Indians, when they go to the water and they take a dip and then they take a water in their hand, a handful of water, and they pray and they offer the water to their loving deity and with prayers. And she was doing this, she was holding this water and praying, and she was just going to pour this water back into the river. When she was holding this and meditating, and she heard a sound, poof, and she opened her eyes and looked, she has seen a small snake inside her palmful of water. And she was surprised what it is. And suddenly the snake transformed into a small baby. And when you keep hands like this, it is called Anjali. This is called Anjali. Pata means falling. Patanjali means falling into the Anjali, into the palms. So this boy was considered as the incarnation of that God of existence bed, Ananda. And so she got the babies, the baby grew up and he became such a scholar and such a great spiritual master, and he could explain everything which is otherwise impossible for somebody to explain because he had this great faculty. And then he learned the dance. He was a great dancer. Patanjali was a great dancer. The masculine dance of Lord Shiva was one of the great dance forms in south of India, and he was a great dancer. So flexible person. Then he was an authority of Ayurveda, the Indian medical system. And he has made a book on Ayurveda. Then he was the authority of grammar, the Sanskrit grammar. So, the third book which he has done was Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, which was the final book. So he has done 3 books. One for Ayurveda, the second for grammar, for good speech, and the third one for yoga for the mind. So when the later masters, when they pray this, the one who has great contribution to this world for saving people from their ill health, for keeping up their pure body, to take away the impurities from the body. You have invented, you have contributed Ayurveda, and you have contributed for purified speech, grammar, and finally you have contributed this Yoga Sutra for getting out of the troubles of the mind. And I prostrate before you, O Master Patanjali, the greatest of the great saint. And these are the only things available. These are part of the myth. But there are places of his living and his departure. That was in Tamil Nadu, in Chidambaram and in Rameshwaram. So probably he might be born somewhere there and lived and studied with a great master, with colleagues of the same caliber, because Tirumoolar was there doing the same philosophy elaborately. And these are the small traces which one can come into while we trace his life. But more important to the Indians is the work of the person. It's not the person, the work, what he was thinking, what he was in his mind. That is the main thing. And so his Patanjali's Yoga Sutra and the other two works are his main contribution to the people. And Yoga Sutra talks about what is yoga. The first sutra is Atha Yoga Anushasana, and now the treatise of yoga. This is the first sutra. It says everything about yoga. It requires a lot of interpretation. Atha means and now. Yoga Anushasana. Anushasana means the treatise of yoga. And now the treatise of yoga. From that, the later masters have seen that he has done something before. What was that? And in their exploration, they have seen he has done grammar and he has done Ayurveda tests. And that might be what he was saying. And now we talk about this. I've been talking about all these things, and now we take up the subject of yoga. And that is the peripheral interpretation. The deeper interpretation of it is, come to now, we will learn yoga. Yoga is not staying in the past, nor in the future. Explore the now. Be present. Forget about the past. Don't think about the future. When you are so much with this present, you will be able to understand something about yoga. And that is his first sutra. From the first sutra, masters have traced his antecedent, that his previous books, like Ayurveda book and the grammar book. Not much known about how he lived, and anyway, he was the place we know, and so he might be living there and teaching people and putting out the basic yoga philosophy to his students. That's well preserved.